Please like and leave a heart, please.
There we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Vidor Locksmith Show. I'm your host, David Gibson, where we are unlocking the secrets to success in the oil and gas industry. One interview, one technical presentation, and one technical screw-up at a time. Let us know what the technical screw-up is for the day, and I'll be very appreciative. All right, happy Friday, guys. I'm so happy to be here with you guys. We've got an absolutely amazing show lined up. I plan on probably learning the most out of everybody watching, just because I still don't know anything about drilling. If somebody asked me to be a drilling engineer, they would need to be drunk. So really excited to have you guys here with us. Let us know where you guys are watching from. Went to the AADE Houston, Texas chapter's operator forum last night. It was absolutely amazing forum. A lot of great panelists up there, lots of really good information. So if you were there last night, let us know in the comment section. Love to be able to give you guys a shout out, as well as trying to think of anything else that's come up in this past week. Oh yeah, that's right, we launched a barbecue sauce, so we're going to be giving one of these away today. Just let everybody know. Super excited about this, the next entrepreneurial venture with my business partner, James Jackson, who is up in Cloudcroft, New Mexico. If you've ever eaten at Magic's Mountaintop Barbecue, you know how good it is. According to Yelp, he has the #3 brisket in the nation. Many of you guys probably know Franklin's, very well-known brand. He's ranked, I think, 20th, 17th, 19th, 20th, somewhere way down on the list. Magic's #3. That's my business partner. So we're going to be giving away a bottle of this today. But before we do that, let's say hi to a couple of people. Let's give some shout outs here. Eric says he's tuned in and says, hello from sunny south of France. Thank you for being here. Oh, Debbie, a previous guest, not on the Vidor Locksmith Show, but she was part of the Learn It, Turn It, Burn It, Torque and Drag mini-series. Was it Learn It, Turn It, Burn It? Yeah, I can't. It's been so long since we did that series. But if you're interested in learning about torque and drag, go over to YouTube, see those videos. Tons to be learned there. Cannot comment on LinkedIn for some reason. Wow, why is that? Is it working over there, Tracy?
Yes, comments are coming through.
All right, will you test one out and see if you put one in, just see what happens? All right, so just checking to see there. But Ian, got to see Ian yesterday. Gave him one of these. Ian, part of KEYDRILL, the sponsor for the show. So glad that they are part of this. As he says, hello from Woodlands, Texas. Thanks for being here. Mr. Gill, tuning in from India. Thanks for being here. Mr. Paul Moore, and one of the guys over at Vibration Technology. They've got amazing technology over there. It's really interesting stuff. I find it fascinating. He's tuning in from Stanton. Thanks for being here. So Andres, tuned in from Colombia. He just posted on LinkedIn the drill bit that he won from watching the show previously, right? So you watch the show, you get cool 3D printed drill bits. Just saying. Once again, Ian, tuning in from the Woodlands. Javier says hello from Calgary. All right. Tracy tuning in from here in the office. Keith Stelter says hello from the Permian. Awesome. Thanks for being here. And Ian says comments are working out. Excellent. That's good. I'm glad. How many people we got watching, Tracy? Is it?
It doesn't show me.
It doesn't show us anymore. That's odd. Okay. That's okay. Trying to see. It just seems like John DeWart hasn't commented yet, and so that's what's throwing me off. You know, he's usually one of the very first to be in here watching the show, and he rarely misses one. So anyways, we'll go ahead and keep going. If you guys can leave some more comments in there, but for now, what you need to do is, and with, if it's few people watching, hey, it increases your chance and likelihood to win. Put in hashtag KEYDRILL into the comment section now for your chance to win multiple things today. Today's huge giveaway. All right. And this is just for, Kate and her coming on to the show. We've got to do it up just for her. So you're going to win yourself a bottle of Magic's barbecue sauce. You're going to get yourself a KEYDRILL hat, a KEYDRILL cup, tumbler, Arctic, double insulated, keep your ice frozen forever. A koozie, a notepad. I gotta keep digging through here. Hold on. It's like the magician's hat here. A KEYDRILL USB stick, a KEYDRILL pin, which I may or may not have used already, and of course a Gibson Reports 3D printed drill bit. So put in hashtag KEYDRILL in the comment section for your chance to win one or all of these amazing items. You're gonna be completely decked out at your desk, and there's just gonna get everything kind of situated so I don't break that bottle of barbecue sauce. Like, oh, and then my monitor moves. Okay, all of that stuff. Put in hashtag KEYDRILL. Appreciate it. Here's a quick little presentation for our sponsor.
KEYDRILL is at the forefront of MWD technology. Driven by ongoing research and development, our systems are built to be rugged, modular, and customizable, meeting the specific needs of the industry. This dedication has positioned us as leaders in MWD system design and production.
Special thanks to our sponsor, KEYDRILL there. Got to meet with those guys yesterday. Great group of individuals. Look forward to all of their success in the near future, or their continued success, I should say. All right, so stick around. Keep putting in hashtag KEYDRILL throughout the show, as well as your questions for our very esteemed guest today, Kate Ruddy. Kate, thank you so much for being here. I really, really do appreciate it. And I know that you're going to be educating us on so much today. So thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, David. Happy to be here.
All right. We got one more person that said good morning. Oh, that person has a similar name to yours.
I might know him.
Might know him? Oh, okay. All right. Well, give us a little bit of your background and who you are and what you're doing these days.
Sure. So after college, I was sent out to a rig in West Texas, did about a dozen hitches out there in the desert, learning how to be a drilling engineer, learning, you got to respect the field from the office. That's a big learning. Oh, there's Dane. Dane taught me a lot of what I know about drilling. And then once I graduated to the office, I worked as an office-based drilling engineer for about 6 years. And then I migrated over more to the data side. And that's where we first met, David, when I was presenting for Anadarko's real-time drilling application, which was it was a great application that we built out there. So I was in a data group servicing drilling and completions, and got a lot of experience there. And after Anadarko and Oxy merger acquisition, I moved on to consulting. And a lot of that was coil tubing drill out focused. So using all the torque and drag learnings from my drilling days, minus the torque, we got to have a clean hole, whether it's cased hole or open hole. So using a lot of those learnings on the drill out side. And that's when I had the time to solve this problem of the Wellbore diagram building issue. So pulling people out of Excel and into this really easy to use web app. And, I get a little bit nerdy. I'm a little bit passionate about having a nice, clean Wellbore diagram, just because it's a very important tool, especially on the drilling side, but even after that for the full well life cycle. It's a very clear way to see what we plan to put downhole or what is downhole already, hazards, things to be aware of. We all know that visuals are way better than just a table or a list of numbers. So the Wellbore diagram is a great visual for showing what's going on downhole.
So obviously a lot of times solutions like this come out of frustrations. So what was like that final straw that broke the camel's back kind of thing, where you're like, screw this, I'm building my own software? Like, what was it, like a singular thing, or was it just like this gradual buildup over time? We were like, I just can't take this anymore.
It was a gradual buildup. So for a while, we were in factory mode when I was a drilling engineer. You know, we had these very simple wells that we were very good at executing them. And we were using the same equipment, maybe slight differences here and there, testing new stuff. But, you know, we were, what'd you say before? Turn it, burn it, learn it. We were burning it down. We were just putting these wells in the ground. And it wasn't really that big of a deal to build the Wellbore diagram. It just stays the same in the Excel template. You just change TD basically. You know, it's not that big of a deal. And then once I graduated to more complicated wells, it's a tedious task, especially when you get into the curve and you have shoes in the curve, tapers in the curve, building those out and then iterating on that. It's a huge time suck. And, you know, you want it to look nice because this is what you're publishing out to your field guys. I mean, there's nothing more humiliating than being called out from your field guys about a typo or an ugly diagram. You know, they're like way up here. I strive to get their respect. So you put a lot of work into it, and then, you know, it's a mediocre result in the end. So always wanted to kind of automate a lot of that workflow and then have a nicer image also. And turns out that's a pretty time-consuming task itself. So it really took until I moved into that consulting world and had the freedom to really build that out.
So why is a Wellbore diagram so important? Because to be honest, I've seen them before. I know kind of what I'm looking at, but I've never really, like, I mean, granted, I've been on the MDE side, and it's like we put the casing in the hole, and then we're like, bye guys, right? So I'm guessing there's people who use this after that significant amount. But why is it so important?
Well, on the drilling side, it's very important because you have the prog, might be 20 pages, might be, you know, could be 200 pages, depending on the type of well you're drilling. And basically the Wellbore diagram condenses all that prog material down into a kind of a to-do list. Okay, we have the casing. This is the cement we're going to pump on that casing. This is the mud that we're going to use on the next hole. This is the hole size for the next hole, over and over again for each hole size. So it's kind of the roadmap all in one page instead of the 20 pages of the prog, which you do need for the details, but it's an overview of what's going to happen. And then you're exactly right. After drilling's done, the next people that take over this well need to know what's in the ground. And it's a great handover tool between disciplines, going from drilling to completions, and then completions can put where all of their perfs are. If there are any issues, call those out. And then production, when they take over the well, they can be aware of things that are maybe left in the hole or, you know, other issues or just what size the casing is. And then, you know, even going back to old wells, it's very helpful to have that diagram. If you acquire an old well, you need to know what's there before you go try to work it over or whatever. So yeah, lifetime of well, it's a very important tool to know what is actually down there.
Oh, that's fascinating. So I know you're going to teach us some stuff about Wellbore diagrams. And so I don't even know what question to be able to start with, just because I'm not educated enough up on this to be able to know what's the best place to start.
All right. Should we look at a sample?
Sure. Oh wait. I actually, there we go.
All right. So this is, the title says 4-string horizontal demo. Okay, so 4 strings means we got 4 strings of casing. So we'll start up here at the top. This is surface up here. We have labels that tell us TOC, top of cement, is at 0 MD. So up here, we could draw a little rig here. So we have the rig up top. We have all those tops of cement at surface. So starting on the outside, we have our surface casing. And this is going to be a structural casing, but it's also going to protect our freshwater aquifers. So this is pretty much going to be required on any well you see, surface casing there. And it's usually pretty big. Pretty big hole, pretty big casing. Next up, we have our intermediate casing. This is at 5,400. This is just a made up well. But your intermediate casing is going to cover any hazards between your surface shoe and where you're trying to go to your target interval. So this could be, if you're in an older oil field, maybe a shallower formation here was a big producer back in the day. And now you have a lot of depletion there. Maybe that depleted interval has been converted to an injection interval, and you're going to see a lot of flow through there from offset injection. Or maybe like in West Texas, there's a big chunk of salt there that you need to cover up. So various reasons for an intermediate casing. Some wells don't need it, and a lot of them do. Just depends on the hazards that you are encountering uphole. So if we move on down the wellbore, we hit our kickoff point. We start to build our curve for that horizontal, and then we see another casing. So we have 2 intermediate casings on this well. So the costs are adding up in my head. You know, this is getting kind of pricey. So we have this shoe set in the curve, and typically this is going to be because you're expecting higher pressure in your lateral than what these formations can handle. So you're going to protect against a potential underground blowout by covering up any weaker formations and getting ready for that high pressure interval, which we love. We love to drill a high pressure interval because probably we're going to make a lot of oil. So we like it. Then we follow this horizontal down. We get to our production shoe. This is actually a tapered string. So we have a bigger casing size in the vertical and into the curve. And then we go down to a smaller casing size in the lateral because we don't have much annular clearance, you can see, between the intermediate number 2 casing and that big production casing. And some fields, you know, you have a really tight window on your mud weight that you can, you don't want to exceed it and frack the formation, but you need to keep that hole open and keep your well under control. So if you have a tight mud weight window, you want a bigger annulus. So we've done a tapered string here. And this is, you know, a big feature I like to showcase. That drawing that taper in the curve in Excel is just it's tough. And drawing this shoe in the curve. So this is becoming a very common feature in a lot of basins across the U.S. So it's important to showcase. You can see our top of cement too inside that curve. All of that's pretty important to show on the diagram. What do you think?
How does somebody use that bit of information when they are either on the drilling team or on the production team?
On the drilling team,
or completions, I should say, drilling,
on the completions team. Okay, so the top of cement is going to be pretty important for completions because if drilling doesn't get it quite right, they have their top of cement out here in the lateral. Completions doesn't want to perf if there's no cement back there and potentially see pressure at surface. So they need to know if there was an oopsie. And likewise, they might need to hold back pressure on this production casing to have the right pressure rating for their frac. So they want to know where the top of cement is so they can calculate the proper back pressure and make sure they're good on their casing design there. Production wise, this casing size and particularly where this taper occurs is very important because they want to stick a pump down there to get even more fluids out of the well. And they need to know what size that pump should be and how deep they can put it.
Well, what are some common mistakes that might occur with, you know, the wellbore diagrams?
Yeah, we can, we'll skip forward a bit. Close your eyes, everyone. All right.
Oh,
so
wow, you got tons of awesome stuff in here. I'll make this a little bit bigger for us.
This is a beautiful wellbore diagram. I think it's hand drawn. You know, I love it. Has kind of a homey feel to it. Little dots showcasing the cement. It's nice. However, when I look at the actual numbers on this well, this is how the wellbore diagram actually should have been drawn. So all of this that's happening up in the vertical on this diagram, it's in reality down here in the curve. So that's a pretty big difference. Like we just talked about, production could have a bigger pump deeper than how this diagram makes it look. Our plug, we have a cast iron bridge plug right here for some reason. That's in the curve instead of in the vertical. If you needed to retrieve it or drill it out or something, that's a pretty big difference. So this would be a scale pitfall, I'm calling it, but pretty common issue because it is so difficult to draw all this out. This is a easier way to draw it.
Wow. Yeah, I guess that visual representation could throw some people for a loop if they're just looking at it real quick and not taking in all of the context. Because if you're going to draw a picture, people are just going to look at the picture and take it as fact, as opposed to, if you're just going to have data information on there, then just have that, don't have the picture. But if you have both and they're not representative of each other, I could see where that would cause a lot of issues. All right. I do want to throw this out there. We've got a question that's already come in. Kate, could you describe the differences between casing, liner, tapered casing, tubing, and how your SW illustrates them, please?
Yes, great question. So casing, I would define as anything that's going from surface to a casing set point, to the shoe. We call it the triangle is representative of the shoe. So I would call a long string casing that goes back to surface, that would be a casing. And then down here where this casing does not go back to surface, I would say this is a liner, and we have this liner hanger right here. So the casing isn't connected up to the wellhead at surface. It is hung off a shallower casing. And then tubing, let's see. All right, tubing would be something drilling probably doesn't deal with, and that would be on the production side that they'd run tubing within the casing. Here we show it with a packer right at the bottom of that production liner. And this is actually showing that this is an injection interval. So this is open hole, and we're going to pump down the tubing and inject into that injection interval. Was there one more item on that list? Casing liner.
So here it was. Difference between casing, liner, tapered casing. Yep.
So a tapered casing, like I showed here, is just
very beginning,
where we're going to change sizes, but the pieces of pipe that are different sizes are screwed together, and so that's shown in the illustration by these lines that slightly taper in to the smaller casing. So typically we're not going bigger. We're down below. We're typically going from big to small. And it could be, multiple tapers. You might go 5.5 to 5 to 4.5. Just depends. You could have 10 different sizes of casing all screwed together. And that also occurs with different grades of casing. You might have a split string with 2 different grades for different reasons going on behind pipe.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So any more examples that you've got? I know you've got quite a few in here.
Let's see what else we have. All right. So here's another liner example. And what we can notice here versus the last one is deeper surface casing here. It's a different size than we're typically seeing. And then we can also see very clearly that this top of cement is at 2,000 feet. We have that white versus the gray there. So that's probably great. There are some rules about top of cement depending on state guidelines. And, that's an important detail to share, whether it's whether you broke the rule or it's all good. You have to, even if you don't get tub of cement where you need it to be, it needs to be shown properly.
Nobody breaks any rules in this industry.
Oh no, well, to go in and remediate it after, of course, but you want to show the detail correct so everyone knows, we probably need to go fix that later on. And then here we see another little gap of no cement. The liner cement goes all the way up to the intermediate shoe, but didn't quite make it up to the liner top. It looks like we set this liner a little bit short, didn't make it to TD. We have this whole open hole section. So you can see this section is the same diameter as your production hole. So we can understand from that we actually drilled with that same size bit all the way to 17,000, but then for some reason couldn't get the casing all the way down there.
Oh, that's because our famous Aaron Baxter was probably the directional driller on that one. And probably messed the hole up. But he says in here, critical for checking hole depth, knowing when you will tag up on a shoe, an extremely important tool for directional team, including MWD, David. So, goes to show how good of an MWD hand I was.
I'm sure you were great. But yeah, if you have this shoe in the curve, directional is probably not happy. You're not getting a survey for quite a bit, drilling blind for I don't even know how far out of that shoe trying to build the curve out. It's not the easiest setup, but yeah, important to know. And I think the diagram is a good tool to easily show it.
And so does that show at what angle? Can it show what angle the casing was set at?
Yeah, so this diagram specifically, it's not built to scale, obviously, because this is 17,000 and this is 4.5 inches. So it's not to real scale, but it is to a scale. And so whatever degree of the curve that is, it is to scale. So yeah, we should do that. We should pop a angle up there for sure.
I'm just asking questions, okay? So
I like it. I mean, it's already calculated. And that's the beautiful thing. I love math, and it's math, and it all makes sense.
And see, even Aaron says, it was me. See, it was him that messed up and couldn't get us our casing to bottom. So Eric asked a question here. How do you show tiebacks? It's frequently unclear on diagrams when it'll be run.
I think we do have a tieback shown here. Let's see. Here we go. So
wow.
This, you could see on what I'm calling the pre-makeover diagram. They have a frac string with a K. It's fine. And then, so we've shown it over here as sitting up on top of the liner string, the liner hanger, kind of tying back. That's how we would show it. As far as when it will be run, I think probably the best way to handle that is to have multiple diagrams for the life of the well. Don't try to put everything on one. Have a pre-drilling diagram. Have a, maybe even as you make changes to casing set points while you're drilling the well, have an as drilled at the end of that, that you're going to hand over to completions, and then have a as completed diagram. And maybe you can show on that one tieback to be run. And then once it gets run, maybe publish a new one. Say, okay, the tieback was run. But I think having multiple diagrams kind of tells the story of the well as it gets built. So I think that's a good way to handle the when part.
Excellent. Okay, I know we're skipping around in here, and you had a couple of other examples. I think the next one was a vertical well potentially there, right?
Yeah, let's check out the vertical. Okay, so obviously the verticals are a little bit easier to draw by hand or in PowerPoint, Visio, Excel, but they still look nice drawn in a web app too. So this one is here we've decided to show this conductor, which is not always shown on diagrams, because usually, you know, as long as it's there, no one really cares about it. So this is 200 feet of 20-inch up there looking really squished. And then we have this surface casing, intermediate. We did 7 5/8 liner, and then ran this 2-inch injection tubing, which honestly, I think we could go bigger than 2-inch in 7 5/8. We might consider upsizing that tubing there. Got a little icon here to show, whoa, look out, we're going to inject here. And showing that open hole with the little dash line.
Wow. Okay, we're starting to get some comments here, but I have a quick question. So is the sizing always on the right and then the top of the cement comment always on the left? Is that
Personally,
standard?
I don't think there's an industry standard, but personally, I like them to be separated out. In my software specifically, all the labels you see are draggable, so everyone can have it however they like. Sometimes it can get a bit crowded if you have a lot going on in the curve. You know, this obviously the inside radius is smaller than the outside, so you know you can make it your own. I don't think there's a clear standard, but maybe we could all join hands and decide on one.
Well, hey, you could be the one to set the standard, and everybody just follows it.
Well, right now, I'll let everyone have creative license on that.
All right. So we're starting to get some more questions. This one's from Debbie. Does it follow a data model? For instance, for casing, its weight, size, grade, connection, etc. This way, it's easy to import, export information, including correct location and information. Does it follow a data model? Yeah.
So I think you're talking about my software specifically. Sorry, David, I'm not trying to have a commercial.
No, that's all right. I'm more than happy to have you come on the show and be able to educate us all, even if it's partially on what you do.
But yes, this is actually one of the issues that happens with Excel, especially that location information. You know, there's so many decimal points in the lat long, and it's like you got to get it exactly right. And then there's a typo, and they end up in the wrong slot on a 10-well pad. So yes, all of that is very important. And in our software, everything is fielded out and do have an API. So everything gets matched to its right field. And I think that is my vision for the future, is that people aren't even typing into a web app. It's just all connected. And we have organized data from the start. And then there are no typos. Everything's connected. And no oopsies due to a fat finger.
Preach. It'd be so nice. Nice, clean data sets. Debbie, thank you for your question. Do appreciate it. All right, Patrick asks, great having you on. These may be more are more operational questions. Do you deal much with high torque casing connections? Can you touch on how these have developed and utilized throughout the years?
I can try. I am not up to speed on the most cutting edge high torque casing connections. But I can give a bit of a history lesson, and that would be back starting out when I was on a rig years ago. We were running buttress casing, and there was this great invention called torque rings, and it was a metal ring that you stuck in the slot there in the connection to butt up against to have higher torque. And I think there was a pink, a yellow, and a green size, and they would come out and measure your slots, your API casing, and then they have a pink ring for that one. And it gave us some extra torque. And then the casing company started just building that in and cutting that into their connections, and then you didn't need the torque rings anymore. And then we started really getting into these different hole sizes and needing more semi-flush connection still with that high torque rating. So that's just from the U.S. onshore land perspective history lesson of the high torque connections. I'm sure there's a lot more going on now.
Yeah, anybody that's watching, feel free to add your comments there into the comment section about any of the other ones. Another question from Debbie: what about fluid left in the hole, like mud weight and type? Excellent question.
That is a great question, and that's usually very important to know, especially on the completion side when you're handing over. They need to know what fluid is left behind. Either to maybe open a toe sleeve, they need to know what pressure to apply, and got to calculate that hydrostatic. And so, yes, I would definitely put that as a comment on a diagram as part of your handover. Definitely would call that out to the attention of the next guy touching the well.
All right. Another question back from Patrick says, next, carbon fiber / fiberglass casing and your experience with their application.
I do not have experience. I would love to hear if someone else does. So
I mean, that's the first I've ever heard of carbon fiber being used. So I've heard of some fiberglass applications, but never carbon fiber. So hopefully maybe somebody that's watching can add their thoughts in there. Mustafa says, great presentation. Thank you. How do you show ACPs, Annulus Casing Packers? I have no idea what that even is.
I bet you do, David. I bet you just haven't heard it be called that. Because a lot of times when we have a DV tool, which would be a sleeve that opens on the casing midway somewhere in the string. So say right here, or let's come out one. Say we had a loss zone here and we weren't going to be able to get our cement up above it. We could have a DV tool that opens, and then we're going to pump through that DV tool to have a lighter fluid column and hopefully get that top of cement where we want it. And a lot of times that will also have that packer underneath to help stabilize that fluid column. So, and there are other uses as well, but that's one of the more common ones we see. And I do not have an example of it, but we draw it similar to these hanger packers there, a box with an X.
Box with an X. Okay. All right. Debbie says, love that the hazards are identified.
Thanks, Debbie.
I mean, yeah. Here's a great question. Next steps for Wellbore Builder.
Next steps, like I said, would love to have a broader digitalization effort. Would love to integrate this visual with existing data frameworks to get rid of that user input part where you're introducing errors and wasting people's time sometimes. Not always, but sometimes, you already have the data set up in a nice format in a database somewhere. Why not just push it on over to us and have the image show up for you?
Makes sense. All right. So what are some of the other examples I know that you've got in there for us?
Okay. So my name is down here at the bottom. So I made this, so I'm not hating on anyone else, just myself. This looks like a pretty nice picture. I made it so, I don't think it's terrible, but a few things I did want to call out. First off, I don't know if your eye went straight to this weird cartoon of the liner hanger.
It did.
Seems a little out of place, but that was the template, so I kept using it. It looks a little crooked too, so that's not my favorite thing. Like I just mentioned, I like a clean diagram. Keep it simple. Don't have the cartoons in there. Just geometric shapes. Next, you see it all over the place, but here especially, we have multiple font types, multiple sizes, all caps, gray, black, Times New Roman. Just, a lot going on. And then up here, we have this blank here. For some reason, we didn't get a top for the bone spring 2. seems important to know. It's not there, but that had to be left blank because there are formulas on the next tab of the spreadsheet that are pulling in from that table. And if you put the third bone spring depth there, the formula would have been wrong on the next page. So we had to leave it blank, and then, just doesn't look great. So in summary, this is super informative. We're getting a lot of information here, but all the different colors and highlighting every different thing really dilutes the importance of them. The formula utilization is great to simplify downstream tasks, but there are still a lot of opportunities for those copy paste errors. And then the hard coded image, it's time consuming to edit. And moving these little triangles further in the curve is not a big deal, but this curve cement, man, it is a pain to edit. So just another type of diagram, a colorful one, I guess. And then, the cost of color printing, add that to the list.
So how often is it that you've got because I noticed that the plat is there as well. How often is that in the Wellbore diagram, or is that included? Because I know there's more information on this one than what I've seen in some of the other examples.
Yeah. This is really, roadmap for the well, including we even have driving directions to the well. So I think it's personal preference. I think it is helpful to have the plat, a little bird's eye view next to your cross-sectional view. I love the imagery, especially if you have a multi-well pad with a lot of different slots. It's helpful to have that zoom in also over to the side. I think it's totally personal preference, and you might want to provide that to some people and not to everyone. It just depends on your specific operations, but I think it's sometimes useful to have the plat there.
What could potentially go wrong if the information on a Wellbore diagram is not displayed correctly? Like you showed us that example in the past where everything looked like it was taking place in the vertical, but it was actually taking place in the curve. Do you know of any stories or any instances where something like this was displayed in the Wellbore diagram and actually ended up causing problems down the road?
Yes. This well we're looking at was drilled in the wrong slot. And unfortunately, so it's not, the other well isn't shown on this plat, but the other well was going the other way. So we swapped which well went which way. And so we ended up, it was a big, I think they were different lateral lengths too. This looks like maybe 2.5 miles or something. So that's kind of when we figured it out, and then ended up, we got someone to trace the wellhead serial numbers. And, we had the phone doing the coordinate check on the phone. They're only 30 or so feet apart, so it wasn't good enough, but we traced it back using the wellhead serial numbers. But yeah, this is an oops example also.
Ooh. Wow. Okay. All right. So you've got some more examples there.
All right.
That's a lot to take in. It's like how did we...
Okay, we saw that one. Okay, here's another one. You can tell this was done in Excel. We got this blocky curve down here, which honestly is pretty smart. Just fill in a few cells. You get the idea.
This is very 8-bit look to it.
Yeah, right. It's just, it's not putting your best foot forward when you submit this out to the world. So this is my beautification. I think it is great to have these formation lines here. On this example, I've called them out using these leader lines. I do think the straight line is a great visual also. I might have an example of that later on too. You can see this straight line. You're encountering that Niobrara in the curve, which is good to know. We got the taper here too. I think they just left the taper off here in that Excel example. So just a little bit more information and a lot nicer looking.
Should definitely post some of these before and after pics on LinkedIn.
All right.
And so what are some of the, I noticed in the horizontal there, you've got a lot of the vertical lines on it. What are those representing again there?
Yeah, so we have a completion. This was not obviously in the before picture, but we did put a completion on it. So each of these inside the casing represents a plug, which would basically be one stage of the frac. And then we have one little line for each cluster. And that you can change the imagery to be however many lines that you would like to see. Or you can have it scale with your cluster count.
Wow. See, I've never seen one with any of this level of detail on it before. This is fascinating. I'm learning so much here. So a couple of people have commented here. Fiberglass can be helpful in a corrosive environment, but so limited strength-wise, we use them usually on water wells. Well, thank you, Khalid. And then Eric said a digital pipe tally is much needed. Do believe there's some people out there doing that. I'm not 100% sure. Have you encountered that at all, Kate?
I would love to hear some company names thrown out.
Oh, okay. Anybody that's doing digital pipe tallies, let us know. I mean, from my perspective, it would be a fairly easy thing. Lasers can measure distance, thing on either end. Boop, 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 boop. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just thinking it's one of those ideas where like, so simple, why didn't we do it, right? All right, so do you have some more before and after pictures for us there, Kate? Oh my gosh, what was all those?
I am out of before and afters. Okay, so a different use case for Wellbore Diagrams. I was playing geologist.
Ooh.
And, sometimes in drilling, we think of man-made features as important geologic elements. I remember a place where I first started drilling. North of the highway was okay. South of the highway, not okay. So for this look, I was just following a highway and building out diagrams as I went along that highway. And it's kind of interesting to see, they're small for a reason. We don't need to get bogged down in the details, but this is complicated. And then I got over to the east side and oh my gosh, whoever this company is over here on the eastern edge of this route I'm taking, they have it figured out. This is way simpler than this. And then I dug into it. I like to do, a big data sweep to find out where you need to dive in. So diving in, I was like, let's find out the secret over here, what they have figured out. And turns out it's the same depth and the same field name, but it's actually a different target formation. So probably lower pressure. They don't need to have all the different casing strings. They can just get that one all the way down into the curve there and then drill their lateral. So a quick learning, taking a drive down a highway, building diagrams along the way.
Wow. So could you use the Wellbore diagram in as you're going through the drilling prog and just be able to do a quick reference of how much this well might cost or some of the AF, something that might correlate back to the AFE?
Oh, definitely. One of the biggest costs is going to be the casing itself, especially right now. So, as you add more layers, those costs just keep adding up. And a lot of times, we're doing mostly batch drilling nowadays anyway. So each whole section is kind of on its own anyway. And those costs are kind of clumped together time-wise. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. You can have a pretty easily assessed costs per whole section as you build out the whole Wellbore diagram.
All right, so this kind of goes back to the very beginning of this, but what are some of the most essential things to be able to have in this wellbore diagram for that handover to the next person?
Yeah, so let's get back to, we'll be here. So for completions, they want to know where their top of liner is. They want to know the size of this casing. Hopefully they know well ahead of time, but you want to make sure what was actually run is what we all decided on originally, because these plugs need to fit inside that casing. So the diameter and the weight need to be the same as what we talked about beforehand. So they have the right plugs. They need to know the actual set depth so they can plan their stages, because as we can see here, we drilled to 26,525, but we set casing 15 feet off bottom. So they want to know the exact set point. Probably would have been nice to have, if we had a toe sleeve here, call out that depth, so they know that shoe track and toe sleeve length, and that's going to be a diameter change there, so they wouldn't want to run into it. And then for the tieback, you'd want to know exactly where that liner hanger is. And then once completions is going to turn this over to production, whether that tieback is there or if it was just for the frac and then frac pulled it, or if production needs to pull it, whoever needs to deal with that, or if they're going to leave it in and run a smaller pump in there. Production needs to know the size casing that's in the ground. And it's pretty critical, as we can imagine. And then, if there were any stages left untreated, that might be a good thing to note. And if any plugs were not drilled out, that's a great thing to keep on the diagram. Say, we have 1,000 feet of plugs at the end of this well that we couldn't drill out. We'll go back in a few years and drill them out then. So anything that gets left downhole, we need to know about for the life of the well.
And so is it standard to have every new version of the wellbore diagram be date time stamped and have maybe a name or revision number associated with it?
That would be my recommendation. Yes. I like it down in the footer, have the date and V1, V36, whatever it is. Because if you're sending these revisions out to people as you're making the changes, you want to make sure everyone's on the same page when you go to spud. Someone's not on V3 and you're on V36. We all need to be on V36. So I think having that versioning is very important.
So here's a question as far as the digitization of it. Is there something like an LAS file, but more specifically for, the construction of the wellbore? So maybe not directly into the wellbore diagram, but if you had some kind of digital file that says where everything, it's got all the meta tags and stuff, and then could be, handed over to you, and then you can populate and make it all visible. But is there that standard right now?
I believe it's in the works.
Okay. Do you know which is there? Is it like OSDU, or do you have any idea which group might be working on that?
I don't know their name, no. But when more information is available, I will definitely let you know so we can let everyone know. Because
Excellent.
That's the way it works best. Nothing needs to be secretively handled. We should strive to make the industry the best as a whole and share those standards. And the more people that adopt them, the faster we can improve as a whole. So I'm not trying to gatekeep. I just do think that it's in the works, and I will definitely let you know when I have more information.
I know there's plenty of things in the works in the industry, and hopefully this is one that can actually come to fruition. Hopefully, Eric says use of MPD can save a casing size.
Good point. Yep.
And then Robert says real wellbores have doglegs and micro doglegs, some of which are significant for casing, ESPs, etc. Are directional shifts or inclination changes in the lateral ever shown on wellbore diagrams just by comments with leader lines? Phenomenal question, Robert. That's actually Very intuitive.
Yes, wonderful question. And I do think for that, a comment probably is the best use, to call that out and maybe, you know, have the exclamation point there to have a warning sign. I don't think visually showing the dog leg is going to do much because of the scale. You know, you're barely going to see a 10 on this sort of lateral. So I do think you're right that the comment with the leader line and the depth is definitely the way to go.
Excellent. All right. Are there any other samples or examples that you've got for us? I don't want to cut you short on
No,
all the
we're all
materials.
good on samples.
Okay. Well, this has been, I mean, it's a phenomenal amount of information for me. Like I said, I've learned a lot with this, and I appreciate it. Anything else that you'd like to be able to share? Some other things that we should know about either yourself or Wellbore Diagrams?
Is this my time to make a pitch?
Sure. If you want to make a plug for yourself, go ahead.
Well, I would love for all the listeners, watchers, especially, you know, y'all had wonderful questions. I can tell that y'all would really get a lot of use out of this web app. So visit the site, sign up for a free account, test it out, give me your feedback. Like I said, let's make the industry better. Let's have clean diagrams, clear, telling us what's going on. And yeah, I'd love all your listeners' feedback.
Excellent. And tell us what's the website?
Wellborebuilder.com.
Excellent. And I mean, I think it's phenomenal for there to be a free product out there. I know that you want to be able to start being able to monetize that and start charging in the future, which is perfectly fine. So for everybody that is out there watching, you know, go download it, go take a look. I think this is a phenomenal tool, especially, you know, you probably get some students to do some before and afters of building some stuff and putting them out there. I think that's you know, great tools for everybody to be able to use. And oh, here's a great one. Clee says, well integrity departments would like these diagrams. Well, be sure to tell all your well integrity friends to take a look with it. Well, okay, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Let's go ahead and do the giveaway now. Special thanks to KEYDRILL for being our sponsor today. Let me hit the present button here, share screen, our giveaway tool, share. We've had 30 entries for today. Add to stage, there it is. So this is for everybody that put in hashtag KEYDRILL, and I've got a whole box of goodies over here for everybody. So we'll go ahead and hit that. We'll say once again, Kate, thank you so much for all of this. I look forward to seeing all of the before and after pictures. All right, and there we go. Khalid, who's been commenting in the comment section and helping us out a whole bunch here. Thank you so much, sir. Send me a DM with your address and stuff, and we'll be sure to be able to get the care package sent over to you. And our friend here, Paul Moore, says, thank you, David and Kate. Nice to see how all of this is done. I think it's especially important for somebody like Paul because he works in kind of, you could say, the stuck pipe fishing area. So I'm pretty sure if they could get this kind of information handed over to them prior to having to attach their equipment and getting things out. So that might be my final question here. Is like, who are some of the people that, you know, outside of drilling that have really kind of attached themselves to these diagrams and have seen this and it's been like, wow, this is amazing?
Yeah, one of the more exciting things is people with boxes of old well files, and they don't want to digitize all these files because, you know, anyway, they have too many wells. They don't really care about all the reports from here, there, and everywhere. But the diagram is what they care about. They want to know where the well is, what's in the hole, or what we think is in the hole, and have an easy to view database of those diagrams. So that's one of the exciting projects, I think, that was a little bit surprising, but building out historic well diagrams from old paper files and having them clean and be able to easily show what's going on with this old well.
Do you have any clients that are looking for that now?
Yes.
Are you doing them yourself?
A mix, yeah.
Oh,
I love spending my evenings building out old diagrams. If more people want me to do that, I'm happy to do it. Yeah.
wow.
But our
I'm just
software is
thinking,
really easy to use if other people want to do it themselves.
I just think it's like a perfect summer intern job. You know,
Oh,
I know from my personal experience, having when I first started in the industry, and one of the things I absolutely hated, but I learned so much from, was taking the IADC report from the tool pusher and then having to put it into our Schlumberger software. So I had to rewrite everything. But the simple fact that I had to rewrite everything, there was a lot of things I was writing, especially at the very beginning of my career, I did not understand. And I've probably forgotten half of those things that it did it. But it was just that repetition of going through it that makes me think that if somebody had a box of old files, to be able to give that to a summer intern, to a group of college students and say, hey, look, go through and build these Wellbore diagrams. Like, it would just be a phenomenal learning experience. I mean, I would take a small stack of them, do them myself, just because I think it would be helpful for me to be able to learn and go through that. And it could also give you a lot of insights as to how they built the wells in maybe a certain field. And then, like you said, then you've digitally got all of the information. So phenomenal stuff. I'm geeking out about all the nerdy stuff that could go along with this. Eric says BOP space out or hang off diagrams for well control would be good too. Robert says for the Utah Forge projects, well 16A, 16B are parallel but inclined at 65 degrees. Can Wellbore Builder diagram one or two of those wells? Is the lateral always diagrammed at horizontal?
Yeah, great question. So it's on our roadmap to offer tangents like that, particularly for geothermal folks. We have been asked about it. Not live right now, but definitely in the works, Robert.
Well, all these kinds of requests and comments like this is what helps entrepreneurs and small businesses keep going in the right direction. So I appreciate everybody's comments. I'm all the way from Nigeria. I think you should give away to the next draw. No, we ship internationally. This is going to Algeria. I don't know. We might have to look at the rules as far as sending barbecue sauce internationally, because I think there might be some rules on that. But if we can, I will. You watch the show, you get the stuff, right? Thank you to KEYDRILL, right? They're the ones that sponsor the show. Kate, thank you so much for being on the show today. Like I said, I've learned so much, and like I'm so excited for your project, and I look forward to the day that it is the only project consuming all your time. And please keep us updated. And I know we'll be following along on LinkedIn. If you guys are still watching right now, be sure to link it, send a connection request over to Kate, and or follow the Wellbore Builder LinkedIn page. Go over to the website, sign up, and get your free trial. Try it out and give her plenty of feedback. Once again, Kate, thank you so much for being on the show. Thanks everybody for watching. I hope everybody has a phenomenal weekend. Let me see if I can get to my little button here. And
thank you so much, David.
You're more than welcome. And as always, know your industry.